And action!
Think you know Jurassic Park? Sure, you've memorized the roars, the chase scenes, the iconic one-liners. But what if I told you, hidden beneath all that blockbuster brilliance are moments so bizarre they practically break the movie? I'm not just talking about bloopers. I'm talking full-blown glitches in the Jurassic Matrix. Scenes so strange, so illogical, you'll wonder how they ever made the final cut. And once you see them, you can't unsee them. Buckle up. We're diving into the cracks of this cinematic classic. And trust me, you'll never watch it the same way again. You might know the roars, the iconic theme, and yes, the famous goat leg scene. But there are several moments buried in this blockbuster that no one talks about, well, until now. We're not talking about some background extra looking at the camera or a dinosaur blinking out of sync. This is bigger, bolder, and somehow it slipped through the cracks of one of the most scrutinized movies of all time. It's the kind of blooper you don't see on the first watch or even the 10th, but once you spot it, your brain does a double take, then a triple take, and suddenly you're not watching the movie anymore. You're investigating it. The scenes we're talking about aren't minor. They are major moments, some fan favorites even. These are the kinds of scenes that is forever stuck in movie history. When it comes to Jurassic Park, these scenes are hidden beneath the rain, the tension, and all the dinosaur chaos. After discovering these bloopers, the question each of us asked was, were they intentionally hidden? Are they secret messages left behind on purpose, or just mistakes that were too costly to fix? Well, we're about to dive into some of the most puzzling details in Jurassic Park that somehow made it into the final cut. And trust me, once we spill this tea, you'll never watch the movie the same way again. So grab your magnifying glass, hit play, and take a closer look. Number 8. The hidden hand that broke the illusion. The tension is sky-high, and the raptors are now officially inside the building. Lex and Tim, grandchildren of John Hammond, the visionary behind the park, are hiding in the kitchen, trying their absolute best not to breathe too loudly or make a single sound. The camera zooms in as one of the raptors approaches a kitchen door and opens it. This scene had the audiences collectively in shock, because what kind of dinosaur knows how to open doors? That scene turned the velociraptors from scary to terrifyingly smart, and cemented them as true villains of the franchise. However, there was also something else in that moment that caught the eyes of observant viewers. Something the average viewer missed the first time around. Actually, most people didn't catch it until years later, once the film was out on DVD and fans could pause, rewind, and zoom in. As the raptor reaches for the handle and nudges the door open, we can see a human hand briefly stabilizing the raptor's tail as it enters the kitchen. Now, let's break that down because this was clearly a crew member's hand reaching in from off-screen to help prevent the animatronic or suit from toppling over. For a split second, the fierce predator we've all been terrified of is exposed as just a rubber puppet being babysat by someone in a hoodie behind the scenes. This scene, before this discovery, was one of the most talked about moments in the entire movie. It's the scene that changed how people thought about dinosaur intelligence in cinemas. It's meme-worthy. It is even referenced in pop culture and recreated in parodies. But nobody caught that hand until years later. It also raises a few eyebrows because Jurassic Park wasn't some low-budget indie film stitched together with chewing gum. It was Spielberg, at the height of his power, with a massive budget, a legendary cast and crew, and the film definitely went through layers upon layers of post-production before being released. Editors, Visual effects artists, producers, assistants, over hundreds of people went over this footage before it hit theaters, and still, that hand slipped through. So this makes us wonder if it was just a really well-hidden oversight, or did the crew know it was there and decide to leave it in, hoping no one would notice? There's even a little rumor floating around that Spielberg himself saw the mistake, but figured nobody was going to notice in a dark theater. And to be fair, he was actually right, because in 1993, on the big screen, most audiences didn't notice. It gets even more fascinating because in later digital releases, like the 4K versions, you'll find that the hand is actually gone. It was later corrected with modern CGI. Still, the fact that such a major error made it to one of the biggest blockbusters of all time is kind of wild, especially in a movie that's known for its cutting-edge visuals and groundbreaking effects. You want to know other scenes in this classic that have bloopers? Keep watching, because this isn't even the only time the crew gets caught red-handed. Number 7. The scene that makes no sense. Once you notice. Do you remember the scene where it's storming like crazy, the kids are in the car, and the T-Rex escapes its paddock? In this scene, the T-Rex devours a goat and subsequently drops a severed leg onto the sunroof of the Ford Explorer, containing Lex and Tim. This moment heightens the tension and horror of the scene, however. In the immediate subsequent shots, the goat leg inexplicably vanishes without any indication of it sliding off or leaving a trace, such as blood or residue. Now, listen, we are not trying to nitpick here, and we get it. Making movies is complicated, things get missed, and editing is just as hard, especially in a film as ambitious and groundbreaking as Jurassic Park. The T-Rex breakout was one of the most iconic scenes in modern film history. This is the kind of moment that gets recreated in video games, homaged in television shows, and referenced in just about every dinosaur-related conversation since 1993. The tension, the footsteps, the shaking ground, it's cinematic gold. And yet, right in the middle of this blockbuster brilliance, a leg just ghosted. Over the years, fans and critics alike have tried to explain it away. Some say the goat leg probably slid off the roof in between shots, like maybe gravity decided to take a break from the carnage. However, others argue it was just a rubber prop, and the crew simply forgot to keep it consistent throughout the sequence. But we're talking about a blood-soaked goat leg here. It couldn't have just floated away into the misty night air, and even if it did slide off, surely there would have been some trace left behind. A smear, a streak, or a drop of blood on the glass or the ground. But instead, it was like the roof was wiped down, squeaky clean, as if the filmmakers had a miniature cleanup crew hidden just off camera, erasing any evidence of the leg's dramatic disappearance. What really got people talking, though, was the fact that this mistake was never fixed. Not in the original theatrical release, not in the 2000 DVD versions, not in the Blu-ray editions, and not even in the fancy 4K Ultra Remastered re-release with all the latest digital enhancements and cleanups. It's like the filmmakers decided to leave it as a little Easter egg for eagle-eyed viewers, a subtle reminder that even cinematic masterpieces are human, flawed, and sometimes hilariously imperfect. This ghostly goat leg lives on as a symbol of the raw, unpolished magic that made Jurassic Park feel so real, wild, and unforgettable. Number 6. The Vanishing Robot Arm. Let's go back to the beginning for a second. The very first time we meet one of the most iconic dinosaurs in the entire franchise, the Velociraptor. In this scene, it's not attacking anyone, there's no blood or screaming, just a sterile, high-tech lab where a dinosaur egg is hatching. Dr. Grant, Ellie, and Malcolm are all gathered around like proud uncles and aunts at a weird prehistoric baby shower, as the egg starts to crack. The music swells, and out comes this slimy, blinking, squeaky little baby raptor. And here's where things get a little sketchy. In the middle of all this technical wizardry, as the egg starts to break open, you can clearly see a robotic arm reaching into the frame, helping the raptor hatch. It wasn't even subtle. It was just there, kind of hovering, like it's giving the baby a gentle nudge out of its shell. At first glance, it seemed like it's part of the incubation setup. Maybe it's a lab tool helping along the process, but then, when the reverse shot comes up, the arm is gone. If you've ever seen behind-the-scenes footage from Jurassic Park, you know they used a wild combination of animatronics and puppeteering to bring these creatures to life. This particular shot used a mechanical arm to control the baby raptor as it hatched. And while there is nothing wrong with that, the movie was trying to convince us this is a real, live animal hatching from an egg. But then, in the very next shot, the arm just disappears, like it was never there. The angle just shifts, and the baby raptor is now magically hatching all on its own, like it's camera-shy about needing help. What makes it even funnier is how low stakes this moment is compared to the rest of the movie. It's just a quiet lab scene meant to build curiosity and awe. And yet, right there in the calm of it all, we get a continuity error that feels like someone just forgot to CGI out the puppet master, and it never gets mentioned. This was one blooper that somehow slipped past even the most die-hard fans for years. Maybe because it was at the beginning of the movie, or maybe because our eyes were so focused on the baby dino's beady little eyes that we didn't notice the robot arm. But that's not even the wildest blooper in Jurassic Park. Stick around, because our countdown is just getting started, and the next blooper will completely blow your mind. Number 5. The Case of the Missing Briefcase. Now, this one is a personal favorite, because nothing says high-budget cinematic mystery like a disappearing prop, especially when it's a briefcase filled with cash. This scene gave us one of the most hilariously awkward characters in movie history, Dennis Nedry. He's the grumpy, chaotic programmer who has way too much going on behind the scenes. Remember the part of the scene where the rain is pouring down and Nedry is meeting up with Dodgson, the sketchy guy from a rival genetics company at some outdoor restaurant in Costa Rica? Nedry is wearing a ridiculously loud shirt and acting even louder, while Dodgson's trying but failing to keep things low-key as he slides over plans for stolen dinosaur embryos to Nerdy. The whole vibe of this scene is shady, clumsy, but weirdly entertaining. And here's where things got messed up. Dodgson hands Nedry a sleek, black, business-like briefcase, and inside was money. A lot of it. It was his advance for stealing dino embryos, and Dodgson even makes a dramatic gesture about it, like he's doing something criminally sophisticated, when really, it feels more like two guys making a Craigslist deal for a second-hand VCR. The point is, the briefcase is clearly there, but in the very next angle, where Nedry is slurping down his soda and talking a mile a minute, the briefcase mysteriously vanishes. It's not on the table, neither is it on the bench. It just disappeared, like it was never in the movie at all. Now, continuity errors happen. We are all human, but this was a briefcase full of money. Money that's supposed to represent the entire motive behind one of the movie's biggest betrayals, and it just ghosts us. Let's entertain a few theories, shall we? Some fans say maybe Nedry grabbed it and tucked it under the table between takes, but there's zero body movement to suggest that. Others claim maybe it was edited out for pacing. But if that were the case, wouldn't the dialogue have reflected it? It's more like the editors forgot it was part of the scene entirely. Let's also not ignore the irony here, because the briefcase full of money disappears, just like the ethics of every character involved in that scene. Maybe it wasn't blooper, but metaphorical. The best part now is there's no fixing it. It's in the final cut, which means somewhere out there, in the Jurassic Park cinematic universe, there's a rogue briefcase with a stack of cash just floating through the jungle, waiting for someone to claim it. Number 4. The Great Escape, or could they just walk around? Jurassic Park did give us some of the most heart-racing moments in movie history, and one of the biggest is the electric fence climb. The scene where Dr. Alan Grant, Lex, and poor little Tim are trying to escape after everything in the park goes to absolute prehistoric chaos. The fences are down, the raptors are out, and now it's up to this makeshift family to survive. They come upon one of the park's perimeter fences, a towering grid of steel cables that looks like it could fry an elephant, and there's no choice but to climb. At first glance, it's all perfectly Spielberg. The tension, the slow climb, the ticking clock, as Ellie is working to restore power from the other end, and Tim perched on top like he's about to be crowned the king of bad luck. The camera cuts between Ellie flipping switches and Tim slowly being toasted. It's dramatic and unforgettable, except once you really look at the scene, something doesn't quite add up. And it is not the timing of the electrocution, it's the fence itself. When you take a closer look, just a few feet away from where our heroes are climbing the fence ends, not with a gate, not with a turn or curve into the jungle, it just straight up stops, like someone laid down 20 feet of fencing and said to themselves, they'll never notice. Well, guess what? We noticed. The electrified death trap that's supposed to be the only way forward is, apparently, very avoidable. And you can see it. The structure ends abruptly near a tree, and beyond it was an open space, meaning Grant and the kids could have simply walked 10 steps to the side and bypassed the whole fence with no need for climbing, electrocution, or trauma. According to Jurassic Park fan communities, Reddit threads, and even the Jurassic Park fandom wiki, this isn't some overanalyzed stretch, it was simply a continuity error. The set was likely only built to be framed within a certain shot, and the assumption was that foliage and camera angles would hide any incomplete sections, but clearly, someone didn't check that angle closely enough, because when you watch from the side, it looks like the world's most intimidating fence leads to absolutely nowhere. Also during the scene, Tim is shown squeezing between the bars as he climbs. He literally fits between the electrified cables. His arm, half his torso, which makes us question whether that fence was even effective in the first place. Combine that with the abrupt stop, and suddenly this terrifying climb becomes optional, like they were risking their lives to scale something they could have just walked around or maybe even crawled through with a little creative effort. Sure, in the heat of the moment, you could argue that maybe they didn't see the fence's edge, or maybe the jungle made it hard to tell. But from the camera's perspective, which is our perspective, it's crystal clear. That fence is unfinished. And what was meant to be a thrilling, no other way out sequence quickly turns into a weird cinematic illusion that falls apart with just one camera angle. It's one of those bloopers that leaves you shocked the second you catch it. And what's kind of hilarious is that this blooper has now become iconic in its own right. It's the kind of detail that fans proudly point out like they've cracked some Hollywood conspiracy. If you thought that fence was wild, wait until you see the next blooper. It's an unforgettable slip-up that even Spielberg probably wishes he could erase. Number 3. Dennis Nedry versus the Dilophosaurus. It's nighttime on Isla Nublar. The storm is absolutely raging. Lightning flashes across the screen, thunder roars in the distance, and torrential rain is pouring down like Mother Nature has some serious beef with Dennis Nedry. Nedry, played to perfection by Wayne Knight, had just sabotaged the park's security system in a get-rich-quick scheme to steal dino embryos for a rival company, but karma, as they say, does not play. Dennis is out driving in his Jeep poorly, might I add, fumbling with his glasses, slipping and sliding through the jungle like he's never driven a day in his life. He crashes into a signpost, and in his infinite genius, turns it in the wrong direction while trying to get his bearings. This guy in this scene was the absolute blueprint of you messed up. But things only go from bad to prehistoric in the next 5 seconds. As he gets out of the Jeep and starts wandering through the dense vegetation in a yellow raincoat, he encounters what, at first glance, seems like a curious, relatively small dinosaur. It's oddly cute until it opens its frill like some sci-fi peacock and lets out this high-pitched raptor meets kettle scream that instantly makes your skin crawl. This is the Dilophosaurus, and this is where it gets good. This creature didn't exist quite like that in real life. The real Dilophosaurus was much larger and didn't have that venom-spitting or frill-flaring feature. But Spielberg and his special effects team took creative liberties, and thank God they did, because what we got was a total showstopper. In this moment of sheer tension, Dennis slipping, falling, trying to bribe the dinosaur with a stick like it's a dog that wants a bone, we get a quick, almost blink and you'll miss it glimpse behind the Hollywood curtain. When the Dilophosaurus unfurls its neck frill in a burst of sound and color, ready to pounce, you can actually see a wire used to control the animatronic frill hanging there for a split second. Now, let's be clear. This was the early 90s, CGI still being developed, so what Jurassic Park did was revolutionary for its time. They blended CGI and animatronics so seamlessly that audiences believed these dinosaurs were real, and most still do, but that tiny, almost imperceptible wire was like seeing a Starbucks cup in a Game of Thrones episode. The fact that the animatronic Dilophosaurus had moving parts controlled with wires, servos, and hydraulics was wild. These were practical effects, wizards working overtime to make sure the creature felt alive. The frill, an original design concept dreamed up by the effects team, was a marvel of engineering, and when it flared open, the wire control system had to coordinate everything: the angle, the speed, the spread, and the terrifying shake that gave the dinosaur its threatening vibe. So while that wire might be a blooper to some, it's actually a badge of honor. Back to the scene. After the frill unfurls and Dennis starts to panic, things spiral fast. He stumbles back into his Jeep, struggling with the door, trying to wipe venom from his face. And let's talk about that venom. It's thick, it's blackish green, and it's grossly satisfying to watch it hit him like karma in liquid form. The animatronic shot that spits the venom coordinated perfectly. It hits his glasses, his shirt, his soul. He screams. We laugh, but there's real fear there too. Then comes the moment that's burned into every 90s kid's memory. Dennis tries to recover the stolen embryos from the Barbasol cannon, but then he fumbles. He whines. He tries to slam the Jeep door shut. And that's when the Dilophosaurus appears inside the vehicle, jaws open, ready to end this train wreck of a heist mission. Let's rewind again to that wire. In a world obsessed with flawless CGI and green screens today, that little wire is almost comforting. It's a reminder that these dinosaurs were real, tangible creations made by artists who literally gave them movement with their hands. Puppeteers who worked in sync behind the scenes. Animatronic engineers who had to calculate weight distribution, timing, and durability for every scene. Also, let's not forget that Jurassic Park came out over 30 years ago. That means these practical effects were done without modern digital correction. In the end, it's not just a mistake. It's part of the charm, part of the legacy. That one moment when the magic of cinema almost lets its secret show, before disappearing into the night with a scream and a chomp. Number 2. The manual mishap behind the iconic entrance. You remember that scene where the park's tour cars are first rolling through the gates? The scene where there is dramatic music. The fire torches are lit, like we're entering a prehistoric red carpet event. And those wooden doors swing open like they're controlled by some genius behind-the-scenes artificial intelligence system. It gave a futuristic zoo energy. And the vibe is that this place is all about automation. No expense spared. However, if you squint, or better yet, if you're watching in HD, you will definitely notice something that completely ruins the illusion. As the vehicles roll past, right when those massive doors are supposed to close themselves, there's a shadowy figure tucked behind them. And that figure was a human pulling the doors shut manually. In a movie that's trying to sell you on dino cloning, weather-controlled exhibits, and electric fences that can fry a velociraptor in 0.2 seconds, you've got this mystery person behind the gates, yanking them closed, like he's working backstage at Disneyland. The way this moment completely undercuts the movie's claim to tech dominance is kind of hilarious. It's like seeing the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain, but instead of a wizard, it's just a guy with a rope and maybe a walkie-talkie. Now listen, filmmaking is quite chaotic, and things happen. This was the early 90s, and CGI was still doing baby steps, but it's kind of wild that no one caught this during editing. What's even crazier is that no one thought to digitally scrub the guy out of the frame. But let's not pretend this is the only oops moment in Jurassic Park, because the show was actually kind of a gold mine for little bloopers if you're paying attention. Honestly, this moment aged like fine ironic wine. It unintentionally mirrors the movie's own message of you think you're in charge, but nature, or in this case, low-budget reality, is just waiting to pull the curtain back. The illusion of automation is just that, an illusion. A single frame showing a man behind the gates yanks us out of Spielberg's high-gloss dream and drops us right into the world of practical filmmaking. Number 1. Jurassic Park's accent mystery. One of the more subtle yet intriguing aspects of the original Jurassic Park film is the curious case of John Hammond's accent. Portrayed by the English actor Richard Attenborough, Hammond is the visionary behind the dinosaur theme park, but attentive viewers noticed that his accent seemed to fluctuate throughout the movie, starting off with a pronounced Scottish brogue and gradually transitioning into a more refined English tone. Let's talk about it. When we first meet John Hammond, he arrives unannounced at the Montana dig site, where Dr. Alan Grant and Dr. Ellie Sattler are working. In this initial scene, Hammond's Scottish accent is quite prominent, reflecting his character's background as a Scottish entrepreneur. This aligns with the film's brief mentions of his origins, including his ventures in Petticoat Lane, England. However, as the film progresses, particularly during the scenes set on Isla Nublar, Hammond's accent begins to soften. In the scene where he shares an emotional moment with Dr. Sattler over melting ice cream, reminiscing about his early days with a flea circus, his accent noticeably shifts towards a more upper-class English tone. This change was subtle but discernible, especially to viewers attuned to accents. This inconsistency has sparked discussions among fans and critics alike, with some speculating that the shift was intentional, perhaps to reflect Hammond's multifaceted personality or his aspirations to be seen as a sophisticated businessman. However, others believe it was an oversight during production. But interestingly, this isn't the only accent-related anomaly in Jurassic Park. Sam Neill, who played Dr. Alan Grant, also experienced accent challenges during filming. In a Vanity Fair interview, Neill revealed that he had prepared an American accent for the role, but director Steven Spielberg asked him to use his natural voice instead. Then a few days later, Spielberg requested a voice somewhere in between, leading to an inconsistent accent throughout the film returning to Hammond. It's worth noting that Richard Attenborough was known for his amazing approach to acting. Given his background and experience, It's plausible that the accent shift was a deliberate choice to add depth to the character, though it might have been a result of the filming schedule, with scenes shot out of sequence and the accent continuity overlooked. Regardless of the reason, Hammond's evolving accent adds an unexpected layer to his character. It subtly mirrors his journey from an ambitious dreamer to a man confronting the consequences of his creations. While some viewers find the inconsistency distracting, others appreciate it as a reflection of Hammond's complex persona. In the grand scheme of Jurassic Park, these accent shifts are minor details, yet they contribute to the film's enduring appeal, offering fans new facets to explore with each viewing. Did you ever notice any of these bloopers before? Or did we just ruin your next rewatch? Do you think these mistakes add to the charm of the movie, or do they pull you out of the story? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. If you enjoyed this video, click on the next video on your screen.